Good evening. So this is the VESC Express. At least this is my prototype that I hand soldered. The new versions or the production versions look a bit different and have a nicer LCD screen and so on. So you can see that it has a USB connector, it has a CAN bus connector, and it also has another connector that you can use for plugging in a GNSS module. And on the back side it has an SD card slot. And it is based on the ESP32C3, and the main thing about it is that it has I put a lot of effort into the software in this one in the past months. So let's plug it in and see what it does. I will start by just plugging USB in. And you can see as soon as we plug it in, we get it shows up here in VESC tool. This is, by the way, something that is new in the beta, that it will always now and then scan the USB devices and also listen for Wi-Fi things, and it will show up here as you plug them in, and if you unplug them they will go away from here. Same thing as you plug in the USB directly to the STM. And now when we are plugged in, we can connect, and you see that we get this VESC Express configuration page. And what it also has, in addition to the ports here, it also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and you can use both of them at the same time. So I will start by configuring Wi-Fi. I already set my password here, and you can use it in station mode or in access point mode. And also all the settings, they have a help text that you can read that hopefully is helpful. So I will start by setting it in station mode, so it connects to my regular Wi-Fi here that is on the same network as my computer. And something to keep in mind when you are changing the Wi-Fi settings, and I think also the CAN settings, is that you have to restart the software after you make any changes. So if we go to terminal, and I don't see it for some reason. Yeah, there it is, reboot. Then it should disconnect. Well, it didn't. No, actually it shouldn't disconnect, because I think the USB peripheral keeps running, and now after it booted, now we also got it here over TCP now, so we can also connect over Wi-Fi. And let's see, let me zoom out a bit here. You can also see that if I unplug it, then both of them will disappear. And I also have a CAN cable. Now this CAN cable uses all 4 wires, because we can power this one over the CAN bus, so it will accept 5 volts in here, and that's convenient because then you only need the CAN bus on it here. So if we plug it in here, then it will power up again, and it also has a red LED, and the red LED means that it is connected over Wi-Fi, and there is also a blue LED, meaning that it's connected with the Bluetooth. And now you can see that we showed up over Wi-Fi here. And now if we connect, we are connected to CAN bus. So you can see now that we are connected to the Express, and we can also see the VESC 6 that is connected, and there is also the VESC BMS that is connected as well, and you can go into both of them and change settings and so on. Let's see, we can also see that if we disconnect here and also plug in the USB, that, by the way, is not always a great idea to power it from here at the same time as you power it from USB. But I think that is fine in the demo here, and you can see that shows up as USB as well. And it will be the same thing, so you will see all the devices here. So different from how all of the NRF works, that kind of use the VESC firmware as kind of the main connection point. This one is like its own device on the CAN bus, and it can scan for other devices, and well, it behaves a bit different. So this is also convenient now, by the way. As you can see, we have a USB to CAN adapter, and that is something that you often have, that you have a controller that only has a CAN bus and you want to have some way to connect to it over USB. So now you can do that with this one, and obviously you can also do the Wi-Fi. Let's see if we can get Bluetooth running. We'll unplug the USB for now. And then we can go to VESC Express, and we can go to Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth has 3 modes, so we can have it disabled, enabled, and we can have it enabled and encrypted. And when it's enabled and encrypted, then it also has a PIN code that you have to use in order to connect. Let's see if that works. So we can write and do the same thing again, terminal and reboot. And it should still connect to the Wi-Fi. Let's see if it does that. But it should also show up on the Bluetooth. Yeah, so there is the red LED. And there it is on the Wi-Fi again. So I will take my phone now and open VESC tool. And here you can see that we have, let's move into the big frame here. Now we can see that we have the Express key down here. And if I try to connect, it will ask me for the PIN code because we have set it to encrypted. And this uses standard encryption that is built into the mobile operating systems. And I think this, did I write it correctly now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see, I think it's paired now, so let's give it a try again. And you can see that we are connected over Bluetooth now. And now you can see in this one that we have both the red and blue LED lit up because we are connected to the Wi-Fi network, and someone is also connected to this one over Bluetooth simultaneously, which is kind of cool. Let's see if it also works over Bluetooth. So you can go to CAN and do scan on the phone. And now we find the same devices that we have here, and we can go to the Mark 6, go to, let's see, to real-time data, and we can see if that works. So that is over Bluetooth now. Let's see what it does if we connect Wi-Fi at the same time. That is not great always, because now the forwarding will be a bit confused since we're pulling from two places. We might actually receive the data here now. Yeah, that didn't happen, so let's try that. Yeah, kind of worked, but it shouldn't really connect from two different sources because the packet interface will be quite confused in some situations if you do that. Now it is the packet interface on the Express that has to handle both connections. But it's curious that it works. And also, obviously, in the phone you can also connect over Wi-Fi. So if I disconnect the computer and try the Express here, then we are connected over the Wi-Fi interface now. And also on the phone you have the same settings, so you can go, so when you're connected over Wi-Fi or over Bluetooth, by default, by the way, I think it makes a Wi-Fi hotspot, so you can connect to that hotspot from the phone if you don't have any other connection and configure it there. And let's see, then we can, then I have the VESC Express page here, and then I can go to Bluetooth and I can disable it for now because the Wi-Fi will be a bit faster if you disable it. Let's see. I'm using the left hand now and the phone is quite far away. So let's do, yeah, I didn't have reboot here actually. Yeah, I have to add that at some point. But we can do the reboot from this one. Let's connect. And now I have to disconnect from the phone first, of course, because it will not let me connect if I'm already connected via the phone, I think. Yeah, there we go. And we can also see if the Bluetooth setting, yeah, it is updated, but it's still running the Bluetooth, so we can do terminal and reboot. And next time it starts up, it should not have the Bluetooth active. So that is, those are the connections with the VESC Express. Now we can have a look at the logging interface for a bit. So you can also plug in a GNSS receiver. I've worked quite a bit on support for u-blox receivers because I had some code for that before, so it supports changing the update rate and everything. But it should be, it is actually using the NMEA data, so it should be working with other receivers too. Let's see. And now that that receiver is plugged in, I think we have to, you can check that here by the way. So if you're connected to the Express and you go to the terminal and you type help, then you see that these u-blox messages will show up if you have successfully, well, seen the u-blox receiver and communicated with it. And then you can also pull some different values from here. You can, for example, do the navigation solution, which probably is nothing because we're in my basement now. And I also have another one. So here I'm unplugging it now, and this is a CAN cable that goes to my window, where I have another express that is connected to a GNSS receiver up there, and now I plugged it in, and now that I did that, it should show up here too in a bit. Forgot to disconnect, but this should be the other one. And now if you have a look here, then we should firstly, yeah, we can also pull the uBlocks messages, but I started up just now, so I don't think it has, or obviously doesn't have any solution yet, so it still has to wait for all of the navigation data from all the satellites. While we do that, we can have a look at the logging and how that works for a bit. So this one also, in the window, also has an SD card plugged in on the backside. And now there is a VESC package that is called the log UI, and you can install that one. You actually have to be connected to one of the VESCs in order to do that, because this will upload some code to the VESC firmware that will be running. And this is in the beta version of VESC tool now, but hopefully it will be released in a month now, because it's most things, or almost all the things on my to-do list checked off. Just have to do a bit more testing. So let's install it. And now if we go back to this one and then back to this one, then we can see that we have the logging user interface here. And here we can see that in log we can choose which values to log, and we can set the CAN ID of the logger. You see that this one has, let's see what ID this one has. So if you go to the settings, we have CAN ID too, so that should be correct. So you have to, the VESC is logging, you have to give it the correct CAN ID. You can set the log rate, and you can choose which things to log here. There's also, by the way, when you are in the package store, and this can also be done from the phone, by the way, you can read a bit about what the different settings mean. And local values that will do, well, the things that are local to this one, like the current and input voltage and RPM and duty cycle and so on. Now you also have the option to do CAN values, and actually when you have CAN values selected, it will, when you start the log, it will scan the CAN bus, or it will not scan it, it will listen for your status messages on the CAN bus, and then it will add entries for all the devices that it finds. So it will dynamically create entries if you have that selected. And you also have the BMS box, and similarly there, it will first look if there is a BMS present and all, and then it will create entries based on how many cells that this BMS reports that it has. So let's select all of them. And the thing I wanted to mention here is that if you have GNSS selected, it will not start logging before it has a valid position. But I think it will have one by now, so actually before we start logging, let's give it have a look if it does. So if you go back here, actually you don't have to go here, you can also go to log analysis, and then you can just do poll GNSS, and you see that we are receiving some samples that are outside my basement window here. So it means that this one is polling GNSS data from the receiver, and it's also transmitting them on the CAN bus. Even if I'm on the VESC 6, I should still receive them here, and that seems to be working. So now we should be able to start a log like this. Now I have to check all of them again, and then we do start. Didn't get any confirmation there, but I think it should be logging. We can try that. I can pick this one up, and I can move it a bit. Put it down again. And now I will do stop. And then let's have a look if we got any data. So if you go to log analysis, this is also interesting. So if you connect it to the VESC Express, then we can browse files on the file system at this one. So this might be a bit hard to find, but you see that now we are in log analysis, and down here we are in browse, and then there are two halves there. This is the local file system, and this one called connected VESC, that is the thing that is connected. And if you do refresh, then we list all the files that we have on the SD card. And if you go to log CAN, and probably date now, because it should create a file that has a date timestamp, we see this one, and that is the time we have now. So if I open this log, we can see that we have a bunch of samples, and then if we go to data, I can, as before, I can click on any of the samples, and I can drag forth and back here and see everything that happened. And we can see that we have a lot of samples. We even have all the voltages from the BMS and so on for this log. And it also has the correct number of 12 cells which it detected. And even though we had log can active, it didn't find any other VESC firmware on the can, so it didn't log anything for that, which is correct as well. And we can also go to the IMU tab, and now if I move it forth and back, we should see, yeah, this is when I picked it up and moved it around. We can also go to the data and plot the roll, pitch, and yaw for this, and then we can see that this is where this was happening. So that is really convenient. Also don't know if you noticed if well, that the speed when downloading this file was quite fast. I mean, it's a very small file, but I think I also have I also put a directory and the root of this SD card with some old logs that I did, and now we connected over Wi-Fi, so we can download them fairly fast, like 0.5 megabyte per second. And that is one of the advantages of Wi-Fi. It's way faster than USB or CAN bus. I can also demo this quickly. So if I plug in USB to this one, and we disconnect from the Express, and then we see that we have the STM32 here, and we connect over the USB. Now we can see that, well, the log UI shows up, and we can see that we are connected to the Mark 6 HP now. So if you do CAN forwarding to the Express, we can still go to log analysis. And by the way, you have to be, this browser will only load files when you have the correct device selected on a CAN bus. So you can have more than one Express as well, and you can go to each one and pull files from it. So now we have this one selected, and we do refresh. And we can first try to log the small one we made before. And you see that it's still quite fast because it's small, but it's much slower than before. And if we have a long log like one of those, like the one that is 1 megabyte, that will take a really long time, because before we were at 0.5 megabyte per second, 500k, and now we are at 10k or 11k. So this will take 1.5 minutes to download if you connect it over CAN. You can still do it, which is useful, but you can also get much better access speed to the SD card. So that is nice. And also, by the way, so when you connect it over Wi-Fi, then everything is, as opposed to Bluetooth, everything is really fast. Now a few other things that we can do. Let me connect over Wi-Fi again first. One thing that I have gotten running recently is that we also can update the firmware on it. So it will be included in VESC tool, and you can update it over CAN bus or over Wi-Fi or over USB or any interface. So it's just like with the other bootloaders. And then there is also this thing called ESP programmer down here when it comes to updates. So now we'll disconnect, and if we plug in the other Express again over USB, then and do refresh up here, then we can see that we have this one showing up on the ports. And the interesting thing here is that when we connect it with this ESP programmer, we can use the built-in bootloader. So even if the Express doesn't have any firmware at all from the beginning, you can use this one to upload a firmware. So even if you happen to brick it or something, you can use VESC tool to restore it. Sometimes I manage to make it go into a weird state where it keeps resetting itself. And if you want to do that, then actually on the back side of it, you have some of the GNSS receiver pins are called IO9 and EN enable, which is the reset pin, I think. And you can pull IO9 down and then reset it, and then it will not do that. And then you can use the built-in bootloader over USB from VESC tool, which is really convenient. And then you also have this custom thing where you can pick files from the ESP32 development IDE, or ID, what is it called, the SDK for ESP32, and then you can upload a bootloader partition table and the application, and you can also control the offsets down here. So there is a lot of support for programming the ESP32s in VESC tool now in the latest version. Another small thing that I think I forgot to mention. So when you are in the files here and you refresh, you can also, if you want to download a file, suppose I want to download a file that I just made now, then we can take this one and we can do save as, and then I can put it somewhere. And yeah, let's put it on my desktop. and type test. And then I should have a file called test.csv on my desktop. And that is the file that we just logged. And it's a regular CSV file that you can open in other programs too. And analyze the data if you need that. Another thing you can do here is you can delete files. You can also select the whole directory and delete it. So if I go and delete this one, then it will delete this directory and the contents in it. And then every time you start a new log, by default it will create a directory called logcan, and in this one it will create one that is called no-date and one that is called date. And the reason that they have different names is the one that is called date, it will put files there if it has a valid GNSS connection where it also gets the time and date information. So then you get the date and time of when the log was started in the file name, which is convenient. And if you do that without the GNSS receiver, just with the SD card, and it doesn't know about the time, then we'll put it in the no date, and it will just get the number like 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that's why it creates two different directories here. And yeah, I probably forgot a few other things, but I think that's a good introduction to the VESC Express. I really like it. I mean, it's so convenient to have all of this extra connectivity and logging possibilities and so on.